A very good afternoon to one and all present here in the session. Uh, I'm Meghna Verma, Assistant Professor at Ramya.
Oh,
Are we good to start?
yes.
Great. Can we have the full screen, please? Sorry for that small disruption. There was some current issue at my end. Hope I'm audible again. So as I was telling that we are always given choices given by nature and choices given by humans. Nature tells us to breathe in fresh air. Human offers us to breathe through oxygen cylinder or use air purifiers. Drink through natural resources, and humans tells us to drink RO water or various water bottles. Uh, Nature tells us to live in harmony with other species, and humans use endangered species for making luxury brands. Love for nature is our choice, or love for brand can be our choice. We can live sustainable life, or we can have the business as usual and forget about future. That also the choice we have. We have a choice to experience the nature, or what humans offer, the seamless experience through various omni-channel strategies while maintaining the social distance using various technology tools, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, virtual realities. Now the intervention of robots, cobots also, which we are seeing it in the restaurants. So we have multiple choices with us. It depends upon us what choices we opt for. During lockdown period, especially during the countrywide complete lockdown, we came across some very interesting headlines. The natural world is thriving now that humans are staying indoors. Nature is reclaiming its space. Surprisingly, dolphins were visible in Ganga, somewhere near Meerut. 8 lakhs olive ridley turtles returned to their nest in Orissa. Himalaya was visible from 200 kilometers away, and outnumbered of flamingos were seen in Mumbai. Very unusual, beautiful sights that we all have experienced during our lockdown period. We have also seen that COVID-19 has impacted consumer behavior. All of us have experienced B2B lifestyle. Now, what is B2B lifestyle? I meant to say that it is back to basic lifestyle. There was unprecedented shift in our preferences. I remember as a marketing faculty for a long time, you will agree with me also that we have never heard of product classification as essentials and non-essential goods. But we have seen that, right? We have only been talking about FMCG goods, consumer durables, and so on and so forth. We have experienced the life that how we can still be happy while having the limited resources with us. So we have seen a shift in the behavior from aspirational buying to need-based buying. So what next? We want to focus on quality of life that we have experienced, or we still want to follow the business as usual practice. Are we ready to leapfrog? Now, leapfrog in what sense? That is what we are going to discuss in the later part of the session. In my session, there will be 2-3 terms which I'll be using frequently. One is the quality of life, of course, the demarketing concept, and sustainability. So sustainability, we all know, is reduce, reuse, and recycle. So I'll take you to the small conceptual understanding of quality of life. Quality of life refers to general well-being of individuals and societies. And it must not be confused with the concept of standard of living, which is based primarily on income. It is a holistic approach. It is based on built environment, physical and mental health, education, recreation, leisure time, the social belongingness that we have. So with this, let us take it forward to what can be marketed or demarketed, not just post-COVID-19, because we do not know when this time will come. So I have also incorporated what we can do and start doing it during the COVID period. So demarketing, it is also synonym to unselling, reduced demand, and marketing in reverse. That is what we will be discussing. So most of the commercial world spend its time trying to increase the demand of products and services. But we also need a science of demarketing to help reduce the demand of certain products and services. Yes, I'm emphasizing on certain products and services. Not every product need to be demarketed. So which product or service do we want to demarket and how can we demarket? I'll explain you through this simple example. We have done this exercise many a times in our life. Somebody tells us this is a length of the line and how would you shorten this line? So somebody will say that let us rub this line and shorten it, and somebody will say let us draw a bigger line. Automatically the previous line will get shortened. So this actually applies in the demarketing concept. So if you want to reduce the demand of a particular product, one, the company themselves will try to withdraw all its 4 P's strategy, and the other and automatically the demand will go down. And the second option that is available is an alternative better product is offered. Automatically there will be a shift in the preference and the demand for the other product will increase and the previous product will go down. So this simple concept, please try to keep in mind to have a better understanding as we go through the journey of demarketing. So demarketing, yes, demarketing. This was a beautiful article by, I'm so sorry, I have been told by the department colleagues to just interrupt. Kindly wait for a minute.
It's not
What is happening?
The slide is not changing.
Why don't you call Prashant? Unmute first. Please call Prashant. I'm so sorry for that small inconvenience. There is some technical issue at my end, which my technical colleagues are handling. Request for a little patience.
Okay, you change it from here, ma'am. Take the mouse.
It's fine. Can we start now?
Yeah.
Please unmute.
Yeah.
Where is this unmute? Yes.
Okay.
Excuse me. I hope you're able to see my screen. Can you just put up a message in the chat so that I can understand you are able to hear me and you are able to see my screen? So I can see that you are able to see my screen. Yeah, perfect. So I'm so sorry and apologies for this technical glitch in between. And let us resume. Thanks for the patience. So we were talking about demarketing. So it's way back in 1969 when Levy and Kotler, they have actually co-authored a paper in AMA Journal of Marketing, and they said that let us broaden the concept of marketing. So they mentioned that marketing was about more than goods or services. It is also about places, people, and ideas. So instead of simply focusing on soap, toothbrushes, and televisions, the DO wanted to expand marketing towards cities, ideas, and policies. That's what I'll be taking it forward. In 71, this title, like marketing, yes, marketing, came up in Harvard Business Review, where it was mentioned and defined the term as marketing that deals with discouraging customers in general or a certain class of customers in particular on a temporary or permanent basis. So when a company discourages customers to buy its own product, they use demarketing. I hope that you are able to see the change in the slide. So there are various forms of demarketing. General demarketing, selective demarketing, and ostensible demarketing. When are we required to do general demarketing? So this is basically done by the corporate houses. So when the corporate house or a brand or a product company want to discourage its customers in response to excessive demand, they opt for general demarketing, a common practice. So when Tata Nano was in high demand, they withdrew their promotional strategy. That's one of the examples here. Another one is tobacco and alcohol. It is highly demarketed by central and state government by having heavy taxes on it. On the packaging, they need to have a mandatory requirement of putting up the cancer pictures, etc. However, it is a very funny situation. We have seen it during the lockdown that when in Delhi and other places, they were allowed to buy liquors. Despite of the fact that 70% increase in the taxes happened, people were still buying. So that's another phenomena. We have to admit it. So selective demarketing, it helps a seller quit undesirable market segments, mainly done to protect loyal customers and maintain exclusivity. I'll give you an example of a five-star hotel. So for a five-star hotel or a luxury hotel, common man is their undesirable segment, but it's a public space and they cannot tell people that you cannot enter into my space. Under that situation, they demarket in the sense that they restrict the two-wheeler parking, and then again when they put up a condition on your dress codes, etc. So that also is one of the way to demarket so to a particular undesirable segment. I'm sorry, again, some trip off of the light is happening, so I don't know whether it is getting, my voice is audible to you or not. Hopefully, yes. So the last one in demarketing is ostensible demarketing. It creates a perception of limited supply to actually stimulate demand, basically creating the artificial shortage to stimulate the appetite of customers. There's something very interesting. So in 1975, BMW did that. And they wanted to maintain their exclusivity. And when they were expecting that 1 lakh cars will be sold out, they put up a cap there saying that only 60,000 will be available. And that's how they tried to do demarketing, which actually ultimately benefits them. However, the objective of demarketing is different for private sector and public sector. Taking the Kotler's definition forward, in 2011, Kotler worked with Lefebvre, and the duo defined the demarketing as blending all 4 P's of marketing mix and aiming for policy changes to nudge and sustain healthier and more socially responsible behavioral choices, as well as deeper understanding of people we wish to serve, the environments in which we make choices, the market research we conduct, and the programs we implement. So that's the concept of demarketing. In a autobiography, Kotler has written something very interesting. And in this autobiography, which is named as Adventures of Marketing, he mentioned about moving from the age of marketing to the age of demarketing. And he said that people are concerned about planet's carrying capacity. Earth does not have enough resources as compared to the growth of population. So he mentioned that ecological footprint concept says that we would need equivalent to 6 to 8 more Earth of the resources if all people in the world want to achieve a US living standard at the current rate of resource consumption. I wanted to highlight US standard of living because Indians are generally aspire to live their life. So imagine how much amount of resource one particular country use. We have to make choices here. So for a better understanding for everybody, I'll just give you a small brief of what is ecological footprint, because we know digital footprint. So ecological footprint is a method of gauging humans' dependence on natural resources by calculating how much of the environment is needed to sustain a particular lifestyle. In other words, it measures the demand versus the supply of nature. Demarketing, can it be a new normal? Answer is are many, but we can ask ourselves the question why. We have just seen diminishing natural resources, poor quality of life in terms of poor air quality, contaminated water, and a stressful life. So how should we demarket? For the rest of my presentation, I have taken 2 cases here. One, demarket product or services that adversely impact our health. I have taken the case of transportation sector. And the second one is demarket products and services that adversely impact our economy. I have taken the case of be vocal for local. So what corporate houses, policymakers need to look at? As we understand that demarketing is all about demand reduction, and it can be done in 4 situations. Managing an existing shortage. We have water shortage, so we can do demarketing here. Avoid potential shortage. You know, you might have come across emails where it is written that print only when it is required. It is not because we have a shortage of paper and we can't print. It is because where paper comes from trees and we need to preserve them. Minimize harm to individuals. Best of the example to understand is cigarettes and liquor. Minimize harm to the nature or unique resources. So here what happens is, let us say for an example, if too many people goes to World Heritage sites or to the wildlife sanctuaries, more litter will happen and it will disturb the ecological system there. So these places are also demarketed so that the nature is protected. So coming to, as I said that, I'm taking two examples. One, transport sector, which will help us understand how this product adversely impact our health. So what we need to demarket here is the personalized motor vehicles, especially cars, for the better world. And why we need to do that? Because the choice of travel mode is directly related to air pollution. Transportation accounts to 40% of PM 2.5. And the road accidents in India on an average is 1.4 lakh deaths every year almost. It is like an epidemic situation. We talk about pandemic, but in our country for years we are facing this epidemic and it has not become a mass movement at all. So we have to relook into these aspects in order to improve our quality of life. I'll just give you an example of this PM 2.5. This is kind of a slow poison, and it is also an invisible enemy, just like our COVID-19 virus. We call it as a slow poison because the effects are not observed immediately. And once it hit you, your health, you will notice it much later and there is no point of return. To let you understand why I'm saying this to be an invisible enemy is because let us see if this is the hair length, a normal human hair. And if this is the size of a sand particle, then this will be the size of PM 2.5. It is such a small enemy of ours. PM 2.5 has the most negative impact on human health. It is a major indicator of air pollution. It is the sixth highest risk factor because of the global death. And national ambient air quality standards, in India, it is prescribed that PM 2.5 concentration as 40 microgram per meter cube, and WHO guidelines is 10 microgram per meter cube. And you'll be surprised and shocked to know that only 0.01% of the population live in India within this safe zone. So you please understand for how long we have been fighting with this invisible enemy, but the corrective actions have not been taken so far. PM 2.5 cause multiple health issues in terms of cardiovascular diseases, respiratory diseases, and in long term, it can also lead to cancer. People who are living very close to busy roads are susceptible to higher level of pollutant exposure. It is very interesting, actually, societal tendency is to blame on one's own karma. They say that, you do this, so this has happened. But in fact, in an actual situation, it is a result of collective karma. Our choices of travel, that someone will bear the brunt more as compared to others. I would like to elaborate on that. Let us say, for an example, if someone is traveling in a car, in an AC car, yes, you can protect yourself, but what about the emissions, right? And if a cyclist and pedestrian is going there, this person who has not been contributing to the pollution, but is having impact much higher. So it is collective karma and someone else is also bearing the cost of it. So are we actually doing environmental justice with all sections of society? That's the question we need to start asking ourselves. The deaths around the world is much higher. That's the statistics of 2016, 1.3 lakhs to 7.5 lakhs in Indian and the nearby regions. So as I said there that, why we need to look into the transportation choices, two reasons. One is the pollution and the second is the death. Let us see the death scenario in India. 1.4 lakh deaths every year, 10% of global road fatalities. It is a situation like 400 deaths per day, equivalent to jumbo jet crashing with no survivors. One of the top 3 causes of death for age group of 5 to 44 years. And 5 states, especially Karnataka, Maharashtra, UP, Rajasthan and Tamil Nadu, accounts for 44% of total registered vehicular population and 46% of the death, a number to be worried about. 93% of world's road accident fatalities occur in low and middle income countries, and 60% of world's vehicles are in low and middle income countries. So what does it mean? 40% only vehicles belong to the developed nations who can afford it much more than us. So what are we resulting as? Bad health and more deaths due to accidents as well. Another scenario, which is a very much point of worry, is that if you see 87.2% of the working age group of 18 to 60 years people died in 2017. Can we afford working people dying on Indian road? What happens to their families? right? So these are various statistics. So then the question comes, should we demarket cars? What do you say? You can put your answer yes or no in the chat box. Yes, then how we should do that? And if you are saying no, my question to you is why not? Because we have just seen the adverse impact of it, right? So let us see and understand how can we demarket it. So car ownership and car usage are the two terms we need to understand to look into it. See, in order to balance out the economy, we cannot tell people not to buy cars. We have seen in April months, there was zero sale of cars, and automobile industry is already bleeding in this last quarter. So it's okay, you have a car, fair enough. You want to buy a car, fair enough. It's an aspirational society. Can we reduce the usage? I'll give you an example in simple marketing terms based on the usage. So if, like the toothpaste companies have been telling you, not just in the morning you should brush your teeth, but you should also brush in the night. As far as, if possible, please also brush after each meal. So that's how you increase the usage, right? So here, the usage means you can have a car, but use it wisely, mindfully. Car ownership is associated with aspiration and measure of wealth, while not owning a car is perceived to be the lack of resources. This mindset has to be changed. The perception of an individual driver that they are not the problem of the traffic on the road, and it is everyone else who's making needless journey and cluttering the road. Can we change this perception? This has been recorded by the authors already in 2000. So it's fair enough, we can't change the mindset of the current generations or that, but we must look upon the future generations. We must demarket the car, and we should use these demarketing campaigns to let the future car owners being more sensitive towards carbon footprint, ecological footprint, green issues, bringing in it in a part of as a part of curriculum. They are not yet committed to car-based lifestyle. So it is possible. We have to just engage this opportunity. See, as if you remember the example of line which I have given you, there's a shortened line, and if you want to make it shorter, draw another bigger line. So here the alternative option in the terms of bigger line is public transport. Yes, the mind will come and you will start jumping me to the question that how in social distancing we can look into public transport, that I will address in the later slides. So let us see how public transport. So whenever we say public buses, what image comes to your mind? This, right? So you all agree with me that these are the images that come to our minds, and that act as a deterrent for us to use the public transport. So what we should do? There is something which we don't discuss often and which we are required to discuss now, because we have seen beautiful nature during lockdown. Emissions we already understood through PM 2.5. I would like you to put attention on this particular picture and talk about the space. Often we have heard Bangalore and other cities talking about let us widen the road because it is congested. So there is no lack of space. Let us see this. There are 60 cars on the road and 60 people walking, right? So our transportation policy says move people, not vehicles. You compare buses with the pedestrians and you see the empty road. Compare cyclists with the pedestrians, and again, you can see lots of space. So space has never been an issue. It is the policy, it is our mindset that is an issue. So to demarket car, promote public buses and NMT. NMT is non-motorized vehicles as the first choice to commute. This has never been promoted, right? Every market has put an effort to promote their products. Let us see how can we demarket. Can we create a new image? So the question comes, which new image? Let us see. These are the new images of our buses. That is very much under the control of policymakers, governance, and to us if we demand. Accessibility for disabled. These are various wonderful examples from West. Indians have been aspiring for decades to follow the West culture. Let us also talk about this culture, which is actually giving a very good quality of life to these developed nations. You can see a pram, you can see an old lady with the perfect labeling of your bus stop and the bus coming in, and we often end up with the sprains because the bus stops are not labeled, or sometimes they are not even present. This is France and Bogota. Bogota is a very interesting case I would like to mention. So the mayor of Bogota once said that, and it's a very famous quote, that a developed country is the one where it is not that poor owns a car, right? But it is the rich who uses the public transport. So that's the quality of life that we look into. Physical integration of public transport with our workplaces, residential places, moving from one transport to another transport, for example, from cycle to buses to trams, that helps us a lot. It becomes a seamless experience, and that seamless experience can also be brought into picture by having fare integration. So if I have a card, I can use the same card for metro, for bus, and if there is a public bicycle sharing system. Mysore has public bicycle sharing system. Some time back, even Bangalore has launched it. So in 2015, I have done a research to understand the growing car ownership and dependence in India and its policy implications, and found these factors why people own a car: attitudinal factor, aspirational society, safety factor, time factor, cost factor, and non-availability of good quality of public transport. There were the strategies also for demarketing cars that I came across, and this requires policy interventions. Like when I looked into the research, I found that 63% of the respondents were ready to shift towards public transport. They were ready to not to use their own cars if public transport is good, and priority is given to the bus lane. Congestion charges in the main traffic area, if it is there, then 59% said we will not use our cars. High car loan interest to buy vehicles is another way of demarketing the cars. Successful driving, unreliable parking places, high parking charges, high petrol prices will help us in demarket, and yes, it requires policy interventions. Car-free days are very important. I
Duplicate.
Hello, everyone. I so sorry that there was a disruption at my end.
Share screen.
Uh, I hope now I am audible to you and I'm sharing the screen. Thank you for the patience and for connecting. Can you all see the screen? Can you please put up in the chat? Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot for your patience and stayed in with the session. Right? So good to start. Yeah. So let me just quickly remind all of you what we have discussed. So we have been discussing about the health issues and how can we demarcate the products or the services which adversely impact our health. And I took the example of service sector, transportation. So I was actually mentioning about the International Cycle Day, which is tomorrow. And that's a very good chance to actually look into it, and if we can contribute towards this sustainable lifestyle, this itself is going to improve our life. So I'm trying to share the full screen with you. Let us see if I can. Okay, I'm so sorry. Okay, this also helps to get us ourselves reminded about what has been done. I'll try to quickly take you to the slide. Thank you so much for being patient, and let me continue with that. So I was talking about the International Cycle Day. So there were very beautiful examples which Latvia has come across. And they have set up an excellent example of how to do marketing for such sustainable practices while demarket personal usage of cars. So if you could see these screen, right, they're a very beautiful picture. And if you will notice that there is a single person on the bicycle hanging a skeleton of a car, right? So they are trying to show to the people that how absurd it is that a single individual should take up so much space on our roads, right? So by bikes, yes. In India, if you say bike, people will think of a motorized vehicle, but no, this bikes means bicycles as well. It's one of the best way to move around, see your town, interact with people, reduce congestion, and very good exercise for the people who actually sit for the whole day in their office. Unfortunately, we have built our cities in such a way that biking is not only impractical and inconvenient, but often a dangerous nightmare. That is why I say policy interventions to live a sustainable quality of life. It is the role of policy that makes a lot of difference, and we have to market for that. So Bangalore has not been behind that, not even India. So some very good initiative have been taken by various people in this field. So Amsterdam-based social entrepreneurs, driven by the belief that bicycles transform cities and cities transform the world, have collaborated with Indian cities, and they have nominated a bicycle mayor. There are 4 bicycle mayor already in India, in Vadodara, Valsad, Guwahati, and Bangalore. In Bangalore, we have our own cycle mayor, Satya Shankaran, who has been actively doing lots of activities. And he is saying that no, bicycle is not sports, it is transport. You transport people, you transport good through bicycles. During lockdown period also, he and his team has been out on the roads and helping lots of affected people, especially the migrants, in the supply of various goods through bicycles. When we talk about bicycle, in the recent time, if you must have come across just few days back Jyoti Kumari, and it might be reminding you of the picture when she has traveled on bicycle with her father at the back, because he was injured, and he has traveled 1200 kilometers, right, from Gurugram to Bihar. Can't we provide a better infrastructure and innovate in cycles so that quality of life is improved for everybody, not just for the urban people? So let me give you some examples which is already coming from Amsterdam. You see, there is a woman with children and the shopping stuff on bicycle. There's a cart with complete grocery of monthly grocery you can do through the bicycle. People can nicely go through that, right? So there are lots of innovations which can happen. And if we spread a positive message among the young generations, startup ideas are welcomed by government, and these initiatives can bring lots of change to improve our standards in terms of quality of life. I have also done a paper with some other colleagues in 2016 about the factors influencing bicycle in Bangalore, and we found that because I'm talking about marketing, I'll only talk about what we can do to promote bicycles. One, definitely, Bangalorean says that we want a separate bicycle lane, which is also tuned up with the um, signaling options, right? It should be incorporated. Then it should be promoted by the Bollywood and the other celebrities. And what is very important aspect that has come up is parking, safe parking. So there should be poles. So if you could see in this, there are strong poles and sorry, the poles where you can tie up your bicycle, so there is no fear of theft there. So how pandemic has changed our mobility option? As we understand, and this must be coming in your mind, that public transport is impossible. Why am I giving presentation on that? Because social distancing is very difficult. So what we should do next, right? The answer comes immediately is let us buy cars, right? It is the most safest option to be on the Indian roads. Really, we really want to do that. So let us see how the developed nations are looking at this crisis and converting into opportunity to advocate sustainable city. So cycling around the world during COVID period. These are the pictures which tells a lot to all of us. I'll give you some more examples from various cities across Europe who have prioritized this cycling option as a commuting option rather than shifting towards car. So don't waste this awful crisis was set by Baldwin, the Deputy Director General at European Union for Road Safety and Sustainable Mobility. Rome is planning to roll out 150 kilometer of bike lanes. Milan also have decided to expand 35 kilometer of roads into cyclist and pedestrian spaces only. Budapest has created temporary cycle lanes, so as the Leicester, UK, who have opted for temporary bike lanes. It is so interesting. I was mentioning that we are talking about essential and non-essential goods. Cambridge has made the bicycle repair shops as essential services, and it was open during the lockdown. Great Manchester has set aside £5 million for pop-up cycle paths and widened pavements. Barcelona has removed parking of 21 kilometers of the city's streets to make space for cyclists. The best example actually comes from Germany. What they did is they followed this Bogota model. And if you could see in this picture, there is a yellow parking, there is a yellow painting here of a bicycle. And then these are the barricades which has been put up. These are called as pop-up cycle lanes. So this is so interesting, which they did in no time. Berlin took just 10 days for pop-up cycle lanes from conception to delivery and refinement. The pop-up lanes include a busy inner ring road. It is not some outskirt road where you have given some space for the cycle. It's not like that. So the 3-lane space was converted into the separate cycle lanes, and they have looked into it. Did people oppose? Of course, yes. Germany is car country, right? And not everyone was happy. So there were many motorists who reacted with anger that how can you paint this yellow symbol on our parking places? And here the answer that comes. There is no right to free parking on the streets, said Flex Witzbridge, who oversees street planning in Berlin district of Kreuzberg. So this is how, these are the mindsets that requires marketing and in a long run, and we have to look into these aspects, which has often been ignored because it is not probably most convenient solutions for everybody, but good for society. US and Canada, we often aspire and compare ourselves with the US standards. They are also shifting towards bicycles. It's a high time, and we should leapfrog. Our cities are still growing in terms of transport infrastructure, and if we have an inbuilt cycle lane, the quality of life will definitely improve. And along with that, if the innovative bicycle comes, most of the problems will be solved. So Chicago has also a big jump in bicycle ridership during this lockdown period from last year, doubled the cycle trip which has been observed. New York has actually closed stretches of inner city streets to cars and allowed only pedestrians and cyclists. It is so interesting if you see in these pictures that New York has seen queues of people buying bicycle, never seen before, right? Canada also have restricted the cycling and walking between 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. during the lockdown period, while other mode of transport were not allowed to move in there. Australia also did the same in Brisbane. Because of social distancing, public transport usage went down, but 22% increase in weekday cyclists and 91% increase in the weekend. Brisbane Bike Store has reported 300% increase in the bicycle helmet buying, and children bike sales went up to 400%. So we have to make choices, right? That was the first aspect of my example of demarketing, where we talked about demarket those services or the products that impact our health. Now I will discuss in this remaining part of the session, which is how to demarket the services that impact our economy adversely. Again, during the COVID period, we have experienced back to basic life, right? We have experienced that the local food means a lot to us. We should be thankful to our local vendors. We have experienced that locally grown food is full of flavor. Seasonality is there, and because of which the high nutrition value is there. Most importantly, it supports our local economy. So, looking into all these advantages, don't you think we should continue with this lifestyle? So we have to be vocal for the local, just to give an example. But what we should demarket, how we should demarket, that's what we will look into it. Like for the coffee, the brands have already started coming in, right? Vocal for local, Swadeshi, Videshi, and that's chai, our own chai kappi, which is actually offering us variety of coffees and which is indeed delicious. So coming to this slide, I'm sure you must have noticed that these are the range of grocery stores across the world, but in particular country specific. Carrefour, you see it when you go to France. Every nook and corner, you will find only Carrefour, right? You goes to Germany, you will find Aldi every nook and corner of the city. UK will offer you Tesco everywhere, right? Walmart, we all know. Woolworths in Australia. But when it comes to India, there are lots of things which is there. These people make sure to buy all their necessity items, grocery related, from their own country origin products, right? That is the thing which we need to market in our own country. How much can you contribute to your country's own product? And people have been doing it, right? If you talk about China, Alibaba never allowed anybody, right, to come into China and be successful. So how to demarket foreign origin products? We cannot say that, don't buy this or don't buy that. But again, let us draw a bigger line, make options more attractive. So can we leapfrog in terms of product dependency on foreign nations? And it can be done if the good quality products are there in the market. We can promote the products through ethnocentric behavior. It is possible, and can it be the new normal is what is the question. It's not like that companies have not been doing it. Tata, Amul have been following this ethnocentric behavior for a very long time. But can all private labels can follow that? Can we help them as a marketeer? Can we design the campaign for them for at least for next 2 years, so that we can have certain economic dependency? That is what we as an academic institution and the students and the industry guys can collaborate and look into it. So they are very interesting example. If I mention about Tata, right? So Tata Namak, Desh Ka Namak, everybody knew it. So what they have changed their advertisement to? Desh Ka Local Namak, vocal about Desh Ki Sehat since 1983. Amul, Atmanirbhar, makes kitchen self-sufficient. So I think they have two responsibilities. One, help the private labels through the ethnocentric behavior advertising and make the Indian brands global. The government is already pushing the Make in India. And I would like to highlight here what PM said years before, that it should be zero defect and zero effect, which primarily means the product must not have any defect, and production process which has zero adverse environmental and ecological effects should only be allowed to come. I wanted to highlight it because there are many manufacturing units which are coming. So we have to put a cap. And when I say cap, we have to demarket. We have to demarket those companies to enter into our country which can disturb our ecological balance, right? So this is again very important, how to demarket those companies, make stringent policies, right? In case if we have a compulsion to bring certain companies which pollute our water bodies or our air, a stringent rules must be put across that they need to treat their waste before uh, they come and establish their manufacturing units. We should be welcoming them, but not at the cost of our own ecological system, and the marketing helps here a lot. I would like to highlight, so, another thing which must be coming to your mind is why I'm not talking about China, because the momentum is there in our country. People are already talking against China. So I thought that when something which has already been demarketed, why I should reiterate that? We are all aware about it. Would like to take some more interesting thoughts and ignite the mind that how we can sustain this demarketing for a longer run. So for that, I would just take two more examples. One is fashion industry and another is domestic tourism. So in fashion industry, it contributes to the aspirational economy. Luxury brands like Hermes Kelly's bags, as high as $7,600 per piece. That's the cost price. Or Prada or Louis Vuitton, Gucci create some of the world's most expensive and well-known fashion accessories made from exotic skin. How to demarket? Because that's also a sector. Whether it is a fashion industry, apparel industry, accessories, or the cosmetics, right? Somewhere it needs to be demarketed. How to demarket that? Ask yourself whose skin you are in when we are using these accessories. It sounds weird. No, it is not. So it is, I am not showing you actually the video. This is the link there because it was quite a scary video. You can see there is a customer who is shocked. So what they did is in a very high end brand store, they put up the bag and then when you open it, you actually see the flesh of the animal whose skin is used to make that bag. And this was actually done by PETA. So to highlight how can we demarket? So see, whenever we want to market some goods or goods especially, the company says that we are into industry 4.0 or we are shifting towards a 5.0 and we are having green and all that. So they try to project good about it. So when we want to demarket something, it is important that let customers also know the manufacturing process of such luxury brands. Let it be a part of it. It is one of the most brutal industry, right? So consumers have little idea of how much deprivation, blood, slaughter, and environmental damage is involved in manufacturing of such items. Animal skins are treated with cancer-causing chemicals. And, if they see it firsthand, how the animals are beaten and electrocuted to make coats and handbags every year, people will stop using them. That's what PETA said. So we have to look into it. Just like how cigarettes, the government has made a policy that the cigarette companies have to put up the adverse impact of using this product. Similarly, for all these products, maybe luxury, non-luxury, if it is coming from such sources, it should be made mandatory that this could be one of the best marketing strategies to keep it away. And even if consumer wants it, fair enough, but I'm sure the market size will reduce. The next and the last example of my session is demarketing outbound tourism and push domestic tourism. I would like to take you to this particular figure 1. This is on business travel and tourism spending. It is in US billion dollars and leisure travel and tourism spending. Yes, something will change. International tourism will not happen, but still let us pay attention because as I said, we are talking about the longer term strategies. So there are long-term and short-term strategies for demarketing. So domestic travel is quite high and the spending is in US billion, 216.9 billion. Now, if you see the number of passengers traveled, that is travel traffic, the darker ones represents domestic and the lighter one is international. So even if something like 40.08 million people or 66.48 Indians, if they retained in India and if they travel within India for the domestic tourism, see the contribution to the economy, right? So then the question comes, how can we demarket international tourism? As I said, for short term, nobody is going to travel because there is already restriction in place and everybody is worried about their own health. But in long term, this is what we can do. Compare Indian tourist places with international. Ditch the beaches of Maldives for Andaman beaches or Goa or Kerala. Replace Amsterdam's tulip gardens with the world's biggest tulip garden in Uttarakhand and Kashmir. And these are the real pictures of Kashmir and Uttarakhand. We have the world's best gardens here, and these places need to be promoted. So, demarketing to support Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. We need two things: government policy interventions and public awareness. While giving the example of the Aprils and other, you will be shocked to know do you have any idea how many gallons of water is used for making one pair of jeans? If you know, please type it in your chat box. It is 500 gallons. Now, if somebody knows that a pair of jeans costs 500 gallons and we are talking about saving one drop of water also, people will think while buying fourth, fifth or 10th jeans. I'm sure for that, right? So what we as a researchers can do is consumer attitude towards domestic product and services. These are the research topics that we can bring in. We can measure customers' intention to shift towards domestic product and services, consumers' attitude towards Make in India products, and likewise, we can actually do lots of research, bring awareness through our students, and collaborate with industry. So this is my second last slide. And what are the challenges for organizations that adopt demarketing? So demarketing poses a very, very difficult choice for the organization, especially in public and non-profit sectors, because there is a choice of individual freedom that is questioned and what is public good. Democracy makes people perceive it as it is limiting their individual freedom. So one of the very interesting example is, in context of transportation, especially in Pune, it is often said that depth of democracy depends on the width of footpath or cycle lane we have. Social equity. Okay, so it is all about social choices. How a nation or a society want to be seen in future. Quality of life can't be an individual choice or municipal corporation or one politician's choice or an NGO choice, but it needs to be driven by entire socio-political environment. It surely requires collective consciousness and wisdom. Demarketing works best when it is having high citizen consensus that the consumption of some goods or services should be reduced. With this, let us empower ourselves to make our country self-reliant. Thank you so much for your patience and time, and I'm very apologetic for the disruptions that happened, but it was sorted out. And I can be reached out at meghna@msrm.org. Shall be very happy to answer if there are any questions. We can unmute.
The questions.
Yeah. Just 1 second, please. We are trying to unmute you and also trying to see the chat box. Just give me a minute's time. Yes. Okay, so there are lots of messages here. It would be nice if we will unmute and you can ask your questions. Question, unmute. You are free to ask questions, please.
Hello.
ಈಗ ಏನ್ ಇರ್ತೈತ್ರಿ ಮಧ್ಯಾಹ್ನ ಮೇಲೆ ಫ್ರೀನ ಇರ್ತಾನಲ್ರಿ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಬಂದ ಇರ್ತಾವ.
Hello.
ಯಾವ್ದ್ರಿ
Yes, please.
ಭದ್ರಂದು ಫ್ರೀ ಇರ್ತಾನ.
Okay, so I can see Gurpreet. I can see Aishwarya. And I can see Nagamohan Reddy. So,
Okay. Hi, ma'am. This is Gurpreet.
yeah, hi, Gurpreet. Please tell.
Okay, ma'am. I have two questions from a similar situation. The session was actually quite interesting, but I want to ask, like, being a marketing student, you have thought that popularity is something which is very, very important for a particular product to be increasing in demand or to be used by the public, which requires a lot of advertisements and a lot of cost is incurred towards it, and a lot of investment is given towards a particular product. Later on, the product is recognized by the people and it is used by the public and adopted after their usage. But due to this pandemic situation, it is said that it gained a particular product. Like for example, I'll take Modi said that Narendra Modi he requested every citizen to use Patanjali products or switch from Lux to
Sorry,
like
Gurpreet, can you please ask your question so that I can give chance to others as well? If you could shorten your question, please.
yeah, definitely. But the public refused to switch their products. So, can you give an answer that that was demarketing definitely required for the particular situation?
Yes, that's the point, you know. I mean, you are a young girl, right? If you're a teenager, don't do that. What would they do? They will definitely do that, right? So what is it? What demarketing says is that be creative, right? You need to be creative in telling people, convincing people that this is good. This is a better choice you have, right? So you tell me when is the time when Colgate or any other brand comes to you and tells that buy my product. They make their products attractive through their 4Ps strategy. So for we have to make a choice that if we are endorsing our Atmanirbhar Bharat, then in that particular case, we need to make choices and make those choices attractive where the role of marketeer plays.
True. Ma'am, I was also studying an article where it's written that my top question was popularity is a necessary for any product to come into demand. So, but in some situations, over popularity is also very harmful or poisonous for marketing. How can you say that? Like how that situation has said that. So, how can it be possible?
So my session is based on demarketing, and you know there is no question of overpopularity as of now, right? So for this maybe offline we can discuss more. Your question is very valid, but for demarketing we have not reached to that situation. Let us make it particular in terms of good choices that can improve quality of life, right? So Atmanirbhar Bharat, Google for Google. I think let us see how we can demarket the foreign origin product and how we can market our own products, right?
Sure. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, my thanks for joining. Yeah, Aishwarya, would you like to ask question? Mr. Nagmohan Reddy, would you like to ask? Hello.
Hi, madam. Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, sir.
I am a 2014 to 16 batch of a student.
Sorry?
I am a 2014 to 16 batch of MSRM.
Okay. Yeah. Hi. Hi, Nag.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Hi,
How-
madam.
Yes.
Fine, madam. How are you? Hope everything is fine there.
Yes. Yes. Please tell me.
Regarding bicycle, like I can see and I have studied a report from China,
Yeah.
like more than 10 to 12 startups has been come with a bicycle sharing. I think now it is in Bangalore with the Zoom cycles and Zoom bicycles and everything. What happened in China is more than, I think more than 50 to 70 millions of bicycle has been wasted because of they come with a good initiative so that every person in China, like most of it in Beijing and Shanghai, they have initiated cycle startups and they have come forward with more than 1 billion cycles, I think.
Yeah.
But most
And
of it is a big
all
failure.
things are on auction. They have already closed down this whole business model because they did not find it profitable, right? They enter only in the market where it is profitable. Even like as you said, Zoom also have offered. Then there are many brands which has offered and they are already taken it back, right? And their
Yes,
bicycles
since you are telling it in Bangalore,
yes, that is the where Make in India should come. We know
is
our
it work?
country better, right? We know our country's requirement better, right? So if we come up with those kind of innovative bicycle, it will be a great success.
Do you think it will work in Bangalore? So forgot about everything India.
Working. And as I said, like we have bicycle mayor, we have many cyclist enthusiasts who want to see Bangalore as a green city, right? So they are already working with that. It is just that it has never got into the limelight and has not reached to masses. And my whole
Yes.
idea of this presentation is make this good practices reach to masses. So what you and I as a marketer can do to reach out to maximum people possible.
Because once in 2015 I have tried with the bicycle, but it is a very dangerous situation in cities like Bangalore.
Let us innovate, Nagmohan. Isn't
Okay, okay,
Let
got
us ask for the separate bicycle lanes. Road belongs to everybody. Cars may belongs to individuals, isn't it?
yes, got it. Yes, pedestrians and cyclists should be given more importance rather than bicycles and everything.
Yes, yes, yes. So I can take last two questions if they are there.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much.
Yeah, pleasure is mine. So I can see few of the messages in the chats, but I'm finding it a bit difficult to read it out from there. So thank you so much for joining me. And and would be happy, like if you have any more questions, then you can please reach out to me at meghna@msrm.org. And you can reach out to our MDP team also, who has been sending you the emails. I express my sincere thanks for all of you for joining the session and having been such a patient audience to motivate me as well. Thanks a lot. Stay safe and stay connected. I have seen one more question here. There are a lot more questions now which are visible to me. I think we can take it offline, and we'll be very happy to answer all your queries. So thank you so much.